Are we live? I guess we are. You know, actually, I can see more with those on. These are my computer glasses. Well, I don't know. Okay. All right, it's 6:45 here in Colorado. Time to start the weekly live stream, and hello to everybody. I'm Dave Casler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, and here is our weekly live stream. We'll spend the first few minutes till about 7 o'clock talking with people who are showing up on the comment screen here. And then I have a major announcement to make, and we'll see if that's earth-shattering or not. I doubt it will be. I upgraded my iPad. This is an iPad Air 2 to 14.8, I guess it is. And the problem with it now is I've got it plugged in to charge it, but I can't shut it off. I shut it off, the screen goes blank, and then poof, it comes right back again. So I just kind of wanted to leave it that way. It says Christopher Goodman is leaving $10 in the channel funds there, and says, thank you, Dave, for your video on how to find the port number for using Chirp. It is well hidden, and it's not the kind of thing that most computer users know right off the bat. You have to be fairly experienced with the innards of Windows. My exposure to Windows goes all the way back to version 3.1, when it was not much better than DOS. There's still a few things I prefer to do in DOS. Okay, let's see. Suing you for the unlicensed rebroadcasting of the Harbor Freight Clock. I don't think so. Let's see, we've got ACP 1911, Steve Ash, Reed AB8AS, Optical Man Jeff, KE0KRO, hello, Christopher Goodman, and Mr. H, KK4FLG. Don DeGidio is here, good to see you again, WJ3U. Hello, all Augies from cool northern Illinois, Garrett. It is currently 70 degrees here, so that's nice. It says, I love that clock. Well, if you'd like to look at it, it's a little hard to see from right here. That is the clock. My cord on my webcam isn't any longer. It's a beautiful clock. I really like it. I have had to disassemble it and clean it one time, but only one time, and I've had the thing, oh gosh, a long time. Okay, southeastern Michigan, W8STX, let's see, W5RD in East Texas, K6STW from warm Sacramento, yes. I hope the fires are petering out there. We haven't seen them on the news. It never makes the news when a tragedy ends. It only makes the news when it begins. So, let's see. Hello, Dave. Hope all is well with you from Scott K9SPP. K0DUC checking in. Anthony Becerra, another Minnesotan, KC0DWZ. 500 till 100K, that is true. The amount left to get to 100K is not very much. Let's see. David Mayer says, I must thank you for introducing me to Having Book's Spiral Bounce of the Lie Flat, a whole new world. Yes, I remember it. They used to do it with a called comb binding, with a plastic comb. It's not near as good as spiral binding, but it was before spiral binding was widely available. And I learned about that in one of my college classes, where I had to write a technical report on a subject of my choice. And the choice I picked was why the Boeing 727 has had those 3 engines. And it was an interesting report, for somebody from college. But we had to have them comb-bound so they would lie flat. Any opinions on the new Yaesu FT5DR? I am not familiar with it. It must be a brand new radio. WW4LLL in Autumn Lake, Tennessee. Daniel Isbell, I like DOS better. I kind of did in a way too. Although there's an awful lot of things you can do with Windows 10 that you can never do with the DOS machine, such as live streaming. So, let's see, Richard Crowley, KJ7YLK in Portland. Ranger Smith says 61 Fahrenheit in north central Tennessee. Bill Malman says, hi all, AB4P in Tennessee. Scottsdale, Arizona, KJ7YDJ. Paul is new, he says. Well, welcome to Ham Radio. Hello from Lee's Summit, Missouri. KE0UAQ. And I probably missed a few in there. They scroll up pretty rapidly. Hello from Lee's Summit, Missouri. Greg Embry, KO4JPY. Hello from Alabama. Enjoys the channel, thinks it's the best ham radio on YouTube. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you, because there are several very popular channels. My dad was a teacher, and I guess I picked up from him the idea of trying to make the channel educational without a lot of flair or pomp. It's a channel where we can all learn together, and believe me, I learn. The teacher always learns more than the student. I do it without the flash and dash. Some people like the flash and dash, so they go for different channels. That's fine. I know several of the people who have YouTube channels. We've met both at Dayton and down in Quartzfest too. So, and at the Reno Ham Fest. Lee's Summit in Missouri. Let's see, hello from Alabama. KC3STX got licensed this week and looking forward to the fun. Well, Douglas, my suggestion is that the very first thing you do is find a local club that you like. If you're a 3, you're somewhere where it's got more people around, and there's probably a number of clubs near you. It's worth it to drive an hour to get to a club that you like. And you'll learn more from that club than you will from any other source. So hopefully you'll get on the air and enjoy that too. Kyle Zering has put $15 into the channel funds to keep the clock ticking. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. I've got this one. There's a grandfather clock in the living room. Also in the living room is an old schoolhouse clock. Schoolhouse clock has an interesting history. I think we're past the statute of limitations on it. But I say my Uncle Bob, he not technically related, but he was a teacher in upstate New York in about 1920. And he went west to California. And he took a schoolhouse clock with him from the school where he was teaching. And that schoolhouse clock is the one that's ticking in my room next door. It got, my dad inherited the clock from Uncle Bob. And then I mentioned to my dad once that the only possession he had that I was looking forward to when he passed away was his clock. And he says, well, why don't I just bring it up to you now? So he had one of my sisters drive him up here and presented me with the clock, and it is it still runs. It still runs. I did have to, again, clean that one too. So that was fun. Most mechanical clocks, they say to take them apart, clean them in an alcohol or a mild solvent like kerosene, and dry them very, very thoroughly, and then use the tip of a toothpick to pick up a little bit of oil and put it on all the parts where there's wear, and they'll keep on ticking. A clock that I had, the cuckoo clock, which is not running, it needs to be cleaned again. I've had it apart, I think, twice. My wife hates it, so I don't bother with it much. It's just hanging on the wall. Let's see. iPad OS just released to 15. Wow. Oh, my goodness. Let's see. Harry Rundle, good evening, Dave, from AC3EK. V-Rod Boy K6SDW, hope to see you at Pacificon. I do plan to go to Pacificon. I plan to be there. My wife and I normally like to take the trailer on trips like that, but there is no place anywhere near there to stay. There are 2 RV parks, each inconveniently far from the venue. And, you know, near the big cities, people don't want RV parks. So there aren't any out there because that's pretty close to Oakland. Fortunately, my wife has a very close friend out there. We're going to stay at her house. So we'll just drive the Subaru out there and just have fun. She'll drop me in the morning and then pick me up in the evening, and we'll be fine. Let's see, got out in the warm weather today and did some HT testing for video. HP compromise antennas don't work. They can have issues. They certainly can. Paul C. VK4DPC says, greetings from VK land, that is Australia. Okay. Edward, I own the FT3DR. The extra money for the FT5DR is worth the cost. Is that a VHF rig or an HF rig? Some reason I'm thinking it's VHF. Okay, N7 OVR Monticello. You're not that far from me. But in Utah, Kevin Lehigh just starting to cool down enough for me to put up my stealth flagpole antenna up. Good. Ranger Smith, that upper engine on the 727 changed to the thrust angle and even more than usual pitch correction in the elevator angle. What was wrong with that airplane? If you're coming in for a landing and you're starting to tilt down, you're getting too much airspeed, the natural tendency is to pull back on the stick, okay? That noses the airplane up a little bit and cuts off the air to that third engine. And until they figured out that's what was going on, they put several 727s into the ground. They had to retrain the pilots. If that engine is giving you trouble, pitch down so it gets some air. And that was the problem with it. After they got people properly trained on how to use it, it became an incredibly successful airline. D.B. Cooper, when he jumped from an airline, it was a 727 because it had stairs in the back. The thing was made for small airports that had no local facilities. So it had its own stairs in the back. And it could land anywhere and just starting to do whatever they want to be. Antenna discussion is always informative, a much misunderstood subject. Oh, believe me. Yeah, believe me. Most of the questions I get are about antennas, tuners, and feed line, and ground. Okay, by far. And so that's what I'm finding myself addressing mostly. And Regarding antennas, if you've got 10 hams, you've got 15 opinions. Okay, Tom Hippensteel, $10, says my favorite ham radio help online just ordered an IC 7300. Can't wait. Well, very good. That's wonderful radio. I've got mine here. I had an FTDX 3000, which is sitting right over there, up on a shelf. It is, I think, a medium level radio. I don't think it's a beginner's radio, although of course you can if you want. But it's pretty expensive. Anyway, when I set up the idea of a reference station, the idea was that I was going to get all the elements of a successful general class station, all assembled, down to the coax and the antenna and the lightning arresters and the radio. And the radio I picked was the IC 7300, not because it was the cheapest or whatever, but because it was probably the best buy for somebody new to radio. It will last you years before you outgrow it. Oh my goodness, just dug out my American Flyer Train Variac. Oh my goodness. Do you think it's safe to use it? It probably is, but it's probably not grounded right. I want a Bakelite 24-hour 8 bells marine clock, but the good ones are super expensive. Yeah, I would think. I've never actually seen one. Jason Heff is in South Carolina, KN4ZUN. I think the lesson is two things are true at the same time. Any antenna is better than no antenna, but don't think the contacts you make think your setup is actually that good and fool you. But yeah, I ask which antenna is better, and unless there's a dramatic difference in the antennas, I don't normally get a very satisfactory response. Let's see, KJ7EHQ also putting up a new 32-foot pole to reach high enough to carry my antenna and fed half wave up to a 50-foot tree. Very good. It'll be way up in the air. It'll do better on the lower bands being up that high. What sort of Subaru do we have? We have an Outback. KM4OOS says hi. Good to see you, Dave. W2JON. Anthony Becerra, FT5DR and FT3DR, or VHF, UHF. Okay, I know what you mean. Now, I gotta tell you, I may have showed you this last week. The box opening video, I think, has come out now. This is a new Radiodity radio. This is the GD-AT10G, the handheld. Now, if this looks remarkably like the Anytone, you're right. The menu even looks like the Anytone. The only difference is, besides price, it's much less expensive, is that it's only 70 centimeters. Now, a high percentage, but by no means all, DMR work is done on 70 centimeters, and this radio is for 70 centimeter DMR. It'll also do FM, but a major drawback to it, doesn't have 2 meters. I mean, 2 meters is the VHF band in the country. Let's see, got your ears leveled? Yeah, I did. Do you foresee this solar cycle living up to the hype? Kyle, only time will tell. 4 years from now, we can answer that question. Okay, Gore's Woodworking says he's not yet a ham. Well, go ahead and get the book, and I've got an announcement to make about that. Let's see. Okay, what happened to the Boeing 717? It might be like sometimes people, you go like, okay, there's a B-47 and then there's a B-52. What happened to the 48, 49, 50, and 51? Well, they were on a drawing board somewhere, but they just kept rolling the numbers. And I think they may have, when they had the 707, I don't know if there was a 717. I've heard things about it, but then again, I've heard that there's nothing to hear about it. But 727 was definitely that. Roz Brown, $10, thank you. WONBG in Lakewood, Colorado, just over the hill. Look forward to Thursdays and listening to my many great insights. Well, they're probably coming from the other people here. Dave, PDFs or real books? I gotta tell you, I find a real book easier to use myself. And so when I started doing the training videos, I got the real books. I got a whole bunch of these now going back quite a while. But they're the real book because you can scribble on them, and you know, I've actually cut the spiral binding so that I can unwind the binding so that I can take individual pages and put them through my high-res scanner so that I can make videos. However, part of the deal in doing the Doctor's In column, now called the Ask Dave column in QST, is in the contract I have the right to use, as long as I attribute it, any ARRL drawing. So I can get sometimes the PDF version of something that's not published as a PDF or anything. Of course, Kindle's no good for pulling something off of without taking a picture of the screen. So having the PDF book makes it very much easier to do that. Let's see, let's go through a few more questions here. I'll never outgrow the 7300, just keeps getting software updates. I haven't done the latest one. Haven't yet begun to explore all its options. It does quite a bit. It has some amazing CW capabilities. What would be a good mic for the FT1000MP? Well, probably the one that came with it. I would think that if you go to Bob Heil, to his website, HEIL Sound, heilsound.com, I think is what it is. He has a number of microphones that go with certain radios. Now, there's also instructions on how to set up the audio filtering in the radio. I did that on my FTDX 1000 with my headset mic. And, oh man, it made a difference. It made quite a bit of difference. Okay, would the tuner in this radio work well for a Hustler 6 BTV? I think the Hustler has a low enough SWR on all the bands. I think that may be my next antenna to buy. There's so many people who use it. Or should I buy another tuner? Well, the tuner in the FT1000, which I think is a discontinued model, is, or am I right? No, it's the FT10D is the new FTDX 100D is the big new model. And you can get, that has an antenna tuner in it, but like all of these, it'll only tune up to 3-to-1 SWR. So it's designed to just touch it. Let's see. Oh, Loring Rose, KN6QNY. Hello from Los Angeles, which is where I grew up. Newham here, just 3 days licensed. Well, do get on the air and find a good club. There's a lot of clubs in the LA area. Do you have a tube-type transmitter with B+ coming out the antenna connection? Any thoughts? Yes, something is wrong. There should be a capacitor between the B+ and the antenna output. If you've got B+ there, something is seriously wrong. It's a safety problem. Don't use the radio till you get it fixed. Do you mind explaining the phrase from DC to daylight? Yes. It means a radio, in common parlance, that covers from 160 meters through 70 centimeters. Okay, that's the common parlance. Well, now we've got bands that are even lower than that in frequency. And of course, there's a bunch of bands that are higher in frequency. So, but the phrase means it covers both HF and VHF and UHF and 160, which is actually MF rather than HF. But that's the meaning. Tried to wear out a 98 Outback, but could not. Yes. Yeah, they are. They are good. I can't think of either a tube problem or the blocking capacitor failing. There should be a pi network between the goes in and goes out of, and the B plus should be fed to the tube through a capacitor. No, through a inductor. And there should be a capacitor coming off of that. You should not have B plus on the antenna. Now that's dangerous. I used to have a dipole as a base home antenna, but replaced it with an end-fed half-wave 4010, and immediately the noise levels went so high on AM stations overwhelmed my rig. Why is that so? The first thing that comes to mind is grounding. You should bring the feed line from that antenna down to a lightning protector at a ground rod. That will help. And then take it into the station and ground your station to that ground rod, and then bond that with the house ground. But you know what I mean. Okay, the other thing is there is a way you can attach counterpoise to that thing. There's an extra little wing nut down on the bottom, and you can attach that, and you can connect it to ground, or you can just leave it go. But either one of those should happen. Anytime I hear extraordinary noise like that, the first thing I think of is grounding. Okay, 717 is an interesting story. I guess I will have to look that up. Dave, looking to add a 6-meter parasitic element to my Mosley CL33. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't have any. Well, I've got the X-beam, but it is technically a Yagi. Okay, Newark, Delaware, checking in. I agree on the real books. Yeah, I do. Although, I take my iPad to bed and do a lot of reading on that thing. So, it's a real problem for me. I go to the New York Times book review, and immediately there's 2 or 3 books I gotta buy and read. So, you know, right now I'm between books, but there will be another one. 717 being the Boeing label for a Mac deck twin engine. I think it had 3 seats on port and 2 on the starboard. Yeah, I've been on planes like that. I'm building an end-fed half-wave tuner soon. Any advice? You know, if you use a 49-to-1 balun to feed that thing, which means 7-to-1 turns ratio, which will give you 49-to-1 because you square the turns ratio to get the impedance ratio. You may find that if you pick the right length for that end-fed half-wave, that it's not going to need a tuner. My antenna's end-fed half-wave 80 through 10, which is the giveaway for next week. I've not needed to use an external tuner with it. The tuner inside the radio handled it just fine. Oh, I didn't see that. See the tablet's manual. Well, that's this iPad here. Be nice to get a screenshot of it. DX Engineering has a range of Heil adapters that lets you use any XLR mic you like, and foot pedal PTT switch. Once you go that route, you'll never go back. It is nice. You have both hands free for note-taking, pulling out books, whatever it may be. Okay, I have the Radioddity GD77. That is a nice little radio. Loaded the Open GD77 firmware. Works great. Oh, I didn't know that it existed. I'll have to take a look for it. I do have a GD77. I reviewed that a long time ago. 707, best ever, certainly the first. The one of the Boeing airlines that I've always liked the lines of is the 747. And I've flown on it a number of times, of course, as a passenger. Hello, Dave. What do you think of the lightning arresters and the MFJ splitters? I don't know. I think alpha delta or polyphase. I go with the alpha delta because you've got DC continuity. The polyphase don't. They've got a capacitor in there. And the problem with that capacitor is if you're trying to run DC over the lines for control purposes, it gets stopped at the polyphase. And then you got a problem. That's why I kind of lean toward the alpha delta. Will log periodic Yagi antenna's feed point location I've seen is at the high frequency end? Is that a technical requirement? I don't know, but it may be. You can get log periodic antennas for HF, but they give you continuous coverage from the lowest frequency to the high frequency. And as a ham, you don't need that. They don't have that high a gain, really. They're just a very, very broadband antenna that's somewhat directional. Let's see. Spent 15 years working J-Stars, my 38-year career in the Air Force. J-Stars is a joint tactical kind of radio. Complicated. I've noticed if the military gets hold of something, instead, a lot of you are familiar with the ISO-OSI layering. It's not used much anymore because now we use the IP layering, that transport layer, so on and so forth. Transmission Control Protocol, the TCP, has got 4 levels. And the military, if they would separate things into levels, connectivity, messaging is another layer, and so on, they'd have a lot more flexibility, but they try to combine multiple layers into one layer, and I've seen that many times, and many programs fail because they get just fat too complicated. Okay, so let's see, the memory still works? Good. Hi, Dave, have you had a chance to play with your DX Commander? I have progress to note for you. The antenna is out. We made the coax for it out of LMR 400. The antenna is all finished. It's out laying where it will be mounted. We put the radials on the little tabs where you can use the thumb screw and hook them down. And as soon as my assistant comes back, it's going up. So we're getting very close on that. Now, we've been talking a little bit. It's a little past the start of the show. So I wanted to tell you about a big change. Now, it won't affect most of you because very nearly all of you have your license, okay? But if you're going to upgrade, it will affect you. We started talking about this with the ARRL in January of this year. They called me and asked me if I would like to take over the Doctor Is In column. And I agreed to do that, and it took forever to get the contract written and all that kind of stuff. I'm what I think journalists would call a stringer. I'm not an employee of the league, but I do a column for them, so I'm an associate editor that does this one column. So everybody knows that, okay? And what is not necessarily known everywhere is that every month's column has a video associated with it where I take one of the questions and expand on it in a video. There should be a URL in there to my playlist on the ARRL webpage that you can go to and find the video that accompanies that. Interestingly, I think the November video is already up. That's the thing about magazines, especially full-color magazines like like QST, is the stories have to be written and turned in literally months before the magazine will come out. So I just got in my mailbox today, it was out in the other room, the latest QST. September is October, I guess. Might be November's issue, not sure. Okay, and of course, first thing I turn to is to see if my column got in it, but I'm reading through it. It's pretty good. Now, here's the announcement. Drum roll, please. My instructional videos for ham radio, for technician, general, and extra, are becoming now the ARRL's instructional videos for ham radio. In other words, I'm becoming the ARRL's instructor in a way, video instruction. Okay. The technician videos went up today. So they're still on my website. I will be going through and marking each of the technician videos and all of the predecessor videos as private, which means that they're intact in Google system, but unviewable. So you have to go to the ARRL site. Now, they're available to everybody. The technician videos are available to everybody through the ARRL site. Now, here is the next part, which is going to be maybe a tiny bit controversial. And I'm sorry if it turns out that way. The general and extra videos are very close to going up on the League's site, but don't throw things at the TV. You have to be an ARRL member to get to them. Okay. So I think that's what they're doing. So that's a little bit of a, I'd really like everybody, but it turns out that some high percentage of generals and extras are already ARRL members. Most technicians are not. The ARRL membership is heavily general and extra, and only lightly. And to answer your question, yes, I get paid for this. So it's sort of like the column. I do get paid for it. Not enough to make the mortgage payment, but enough to make it worth my while. Now I'll get I guess they would call it a royalty on the training videos. Now I do retain responsibility and a large measure of creative control. They're basically taking the videos as is, even though there are places in them where I say the ARRL is wrong on this. Okay, that's going up also. So I spent this afternoon ruining a bunch of recordings about the intro and outro for the general and extra videos. I looked at them today. I've got this nice, lovely new teleprompter here, and I was sitting too close to it. You could see my eyes going back and forth reading the thing. So I got to try it again. Okay. Yeah, they have good stuff on there. So it is official content, and the training videos for general and extra will go there too. Now, this means that they'll come off of my site, or actually they'll be tucked away in Google's storage system. But the one thing that we never discussed in all of our conversations, and we had lots of conversations, was what to do about the thumb drives for people who want to study the videos on their own in some place where they can't get to the internet. And as it stands right now, I will discontinue making those. I'm going to talk with the league and saying, look, there's a need there. There's definitely a need for people to be able to get the videos so they can study them at their mountain cabin or out in the middle of the Arizona desert or something like that. We'll see what we can work out so that that can happen. Now, I am no longer selling the technician videos, but until the general and extra videos get online, I will continue to sell the general and extra videos on thumb drives. At $39.99 each for the general, $49.99 each for the extra, and those are postpaid in the United States. Now, there's a couple countries so far in Europe where the postage is only like $1 more than it is in the U.S. for first class mail, which is how I send them. First class parcel. So it's got a tracking number. I've sent them to Switzerland and Italy, and that seems to work. I don't know why, but apparently these have proven useful. Okay, so there you go. Okay, now, yes, nearing the 100K mark very soon. Let me show you what I've got so far in the way of mail for the drawing for this week. I don't know, I think there's probably a couple hundred there. These are the entries I've received this week. There's 1 week to go. Now, if you want to enter this drawing, and the drawing is for, where did I put it? I put it somewhere where I can't find it. Anyway, the drawing on next week it's the last Thursday of the month, so we'll be doing the drawing then, and it will be for a My Antennas end-fed half-wave 80 through 10 dipole, and that will be shipped free of charge to whoever's name I draw. All these others here go into the trash. I don't keep lists of names, emails, call signs, anything like that. It's private. And then I take the one that I draw out of there as the winner, and I'll shove that in the box. So you can get it back. So I won't even keep the name of the winner. It's going to be that private. I know I could probably make money selling the list, but I'm not going to. Dave, where can I find your complete reference equipment list? Go to DCASLER, Casler, DCASLER.com/reference. Just the single word reference, all lowercase. And that will give you the complete station set up there. I believe I have a link on that page. Well, let's just look. New tab. Okay, reference. dcasler.com/reference. Moving. There we go. Okay, here is the reference station. Right here. I'm still working on reference station for tech. The thing that's hanging me up for the reference station on tech is the digital stuff. DMR versus C4FM versus D-Star. Okay? And the problem is all three are popular. So if I recommend one radio, it may be the wrong radio for your area. However, the reference station for general and amateur extra, okay, the HF radio, I've got videos for many of these, but the power supply, specific power supply, coax, RF connectors, power distribution, power connectors, antenna grounding, lightning surge protector, bonding for grounding, CW straight key, digital mode software for both PSK31 and RIDI, and then for the GT8 modes like FT8. Logging software, I haven't put it down there, but I'm probably going to go with N3FJP for that. Although N1MM is very popular for logging. So that's the reference station. It's DCASLER/reference. Okay. Let's see. We the people want VHS. I have a VHF recorder up there somewhere. I was playing some old VHS tapes from when my kids were little. And my oldest is 38, so that was a long time ago. So I actually do have VHF equipment. Oh, Betamax. Here we go. That was, among audiophiles, the big debate, VHS versus Betamax. The answer is that Betamax is technically superior, but they were second to market. That is the worst thing you can do. A better system that's second to market. Because the first system has got so many users that the second to market is forever Hertz versus Avis. You know, you can't catch up and be the market leader. You just can't do it. So, and then of course we went to DVD players after that, and then Blu-ray. And now nobody does that anymore. They always stream things online. And so there you go. They'll get your money one way or another. Oh, chain letters, I remember then. I believe all you need to do, okay, somebody asked the question. I think what the question was, they let their license expire and it's past the 2-year grace period. You will have to take the technician test, but then you will be restored either to general or amateur extra, but not to advanced. If you had your advanced license, you'll get a general. Now, I know that the advanced license was the tough one technically, but that's not how the FCC set it up. So you'll, in essence, have to learn the tough technical material over again to get your extra. Okay, far too many Americans don't know how to operate a pitchfork. And I'm kind of grateful of that because I don't have any blisters from the pitchfork. But yeah, they used to have to do all that haying by hand. Let's see. If your call has not been reassigned, you can get it back as a vanity call. Okay? You don't automatically get your old call sign back. If it's still available, you can get it as a vanity call. Right at the moment, that's free, but soon it's going to cost $35. Okay. Ham Radio Kinks, transcripts of his video. It's all there already. Okay. Or a shovel. Yeah. Oh, I hate shovels. Our pets. We have a pet cemetery in the yard. We've got an acre here, so we have a pet cemetery with a couple cats and a dog, and they always die midwinter. And that ground is frozen. And trying to dig a little hole for a little dog is quite an affair. I'm not strong enough to do the next one. I'll have to hire somebody to bring a backhoe or something. Oh, now, Daniel L., you're sending your QSL for the drawing today. Good. I would recommend that if you are going to enter the drawing, that your mail, remember it's a snail mail, go in the mail to the post office, where the post office has its hot little hands on it, tomorrow. Because I've had these cards take up to a week to get to me. The Postal Service is doing some weird gyrations with their service standards. What I'm going to do next Thursday, the 30th, is I will go down to the post office mid-afternoon. The mail's put out in the morning. So after the morning, there's no more mail coming in. So I'll go down there mid-afternoon, collect up all the cards, bring them back here, shuffle them. Just shuffle them completely so they're totally shuffled. And then I will reach in the middle and put my finger in there and draw out whatever is in there, and that will be the winner. The antenna will go in the mail, and I'm sending it USPS in priority mail the next day. Okay, so it'll go out right away. Okay, let's see. Is Mrs. C streaming TV tonight? Saw the video freeze a couple times. Yeah, I did too. I don't think she is, although I didn't mention it to her. Kyle Zring sends $20 to the chat revenue and says that he has learned more from me than the next 5 YouTube channels. Thanks. Some of the YouTube channels are extremely technical. I know of one, a very respected amateur, who actually, I guess, has the wherewithal to do this. He purchases the top-of-the-line radios and then does extraordinary testing on them to see which one is technically better. I have, over here, a signal generator, an oscilloscope, and a spectrum analyzer. And I was able to take the little, UV5R is the most common cheap portable. They created a GT5R, which is the same radio, except they've redone the RF front end. And I tested it on there and was able to show in a video the dramatic difference between the UV5R, which is a piece of junk that's got all kinds of harmonics on it, and the GT5R, which really was clean. Okay, so that guy does that, but the problem is, I really don't care what the third order harmonic distortion is, or whatever they call it, because my little 7300 and your Yaesu 450 or ICOM 718 or whatever it may be works just fine. All the radios today work just fine. That was not true 40 years ago. My first radio was an HW18, which had a reputation for chirp. Chirp is, instead of dit, 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 it's dit, 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 dit. You know, so, I mean, that was what was being sold publicly. Not anymore. What we're getting today are good, solid, sophisticated radios. I actually had to go to W2AEW's website to figure out something on my spectrum analyzer, which I looked at that, and after I read it, I went, oh, yeah, okay. So, let's see, we've got, let's see, just subscribe to, okay. Ruben, I just approved your comment. I don't know why I had to approve it. Okay. Sending mine for the March drawing tomorrow. No, please, number 2s. I've got a few number 1s here that didn't quite make it in time. These didn't make it in time. Just 3, though. That's not too bad. Okay, just subscribe. Dave gave you a thumbs up. Thank you. Need your expertise on 1-foot coax connector from my radio to an automatic antenna tuner and digital SWR power meters. At HF, 1 foot of coax is insignificant. You're not going to have any trouble. Now, I read somewhere to make the connector between my radio and the amplifier not too short. So it's like 6 or 7 feet long. And I don't know, I've never had any trouble. I didn't think I was going to have trouble, but I did make it long, just because of that little thing that I read there. Optical Man Jeff sends $15 to the Chat revenue says, thanks, Dave, the best place for ham radio information. Thank you very much. Like that word gyrations. Top list is the DX Engineering DXE 8X. Okay, DX8. Well, RG8X is a nice coax. You can get... One of the problems, if you know, the premium coax is generally considered to be times microwave among the American-made coaxes. There's one that comes out of Italy called Messi and Paolini, something like that, M&P. And the length of coax that goes from my lightning arrestor out to the step-IR antenna is that coax, and it takes a special connector. Yesterday I used some special LMR 400 connectors from Times Microwave using the Times Microwave toolkit to put on the attachments at the two ends for the new DX commander. It's already connected to the lightning arrestor. Just need to connect it to the DX antenna, prop it up, put some radials out, a couple guy wire or guy ropes to keep it up, and I'm ready to go. We moved it as far away from the ham shack as we could get it and still be kind of invisible to people going by. So, okay. So you were the one responsible for that chirp years ago. I was one of the many. I think I solved it with a capacitor across the key contacts. When I filed Father's final tax return, was expected delivery track showed it was delivered on 6/7. I'm not surprised. The post office has been eaten away. Their revenue has been eaten. It used to be their main revenue source was first-class mail. But things aren't being shipped first-class mail anymore. Your bill comes as an email, and it gets paid automatically. They take it out of my bank account. Okay, I got all my bills set up that way. No first-class stamps there. That's a huge portion of their former business. And UPS and FedEx have taken over their parcel post. You know, they put in priority mail, which is nice, because it is a little cheaper than UPS and FedEx. The problem is, I know there were some people who were saying, the last administration, that the post office ought to charge $1 for a first-class stamp. The problem is that would push more people to email, and those who advertise through the mail would just quit. They're almost quit now because it's so expensive to get things through. Now, I ship the thumb drives first class parcel, and it costs me to send anywhere in the U.S. a little bit more than $3, like $3.05, depending on how far it goes. And if I send that to Italy, it's like $4 or $4 plus. To send the antenna out, I'm going to have to use priority mail because it's not a book. If it were a book, I could send it media mail. So it's just, you know, it's complicated. I use PayPal to do all payment processing. So if you're a patron through Patreon, which I really appreciate the 208 people who are doing that, that actually goes into my PayPal account. And then if you want to get a subscription on PayPal, that goes into my PayPal account. Tips go into the PayPal account. The antenna's thumb drive goes into the PayPal account. It all goes in there. I even got a MasterCard from them, so I can use that to buy things for the channel and stuff like that. But yeah. Oh, and speaking of tax returns, I file on my tax accountant files online. and I pay my estimated tax payments, pay 4 times a year, because I don't work, so I don't get a W-2 anymore. I pay that online. There's no first-class mail there either. So the post office's first-class mail base has largely disappeared. Okay, nobody else does what they do. Nobody will deliver bills or anything like that. For one thing, there's a law. It's against federal law to put something in somebody's mailbox unless you are the Postal Service. So you can't go around and shove flyers in people's mailboxes. They'll catch you. They'll usually just warn you off, but that's illegal. So no one can compete with the post office for first-class mail, because you'd have to have door hangers or something like that. Now, FedEx has partially gotten rid of that because very high priority stuff, they can ship overnight, or even in some places same day, pieces of very important documents, to where the worth of getting the document done is far more expensive than the cost of sending it via FedEx. If you really want to ship something quickly, now this has become harder since 9/11, but you can go down to the airport, to the cargo terminal, and pick an airline that has a flight to where you want it to go, and give them the parcel. They'll have to inspect, yada, yada, x-ray, da-da-da-da-da, and they will put that on the airplane the next flight. So you can get it across the country in 6 hours if somebody's waiting to pick it up on the other end. That is actually the fastest way to ship. Dave, have I ever had a Bruce curtain antenna? No, I have not. I've never had any kind of curtain. USPS Media Mail is the cheapest. Yes, it is. And when I ship books, I often use that. I have some books that I've written that I occasionally sell a copy of. They go out media mail. Post office workers don't have to get shots. Well, that's unfortunate. They are not federal employees like they used to be. Now, the Constitution requires that the federal government run a postal service. And in essence, they've created a government corporation, the U.S. Postal Service, USPS, okay. The corporation is owned by the federal government, but the employees are employees of the Postal Service. Okay, so it used to be they were civil servants, and you could hop from one job to another. You know, you've been a postman for 10 years in one spot, your next job is a ranger in Death Valley. I don't know. But you can't do that anymore because they're no longer actually federal employees. They've got a whale of a good package for them. A lot of people want those jobs, although, of course, like everybody else, they're looking for jobs. Let's see. I've started sending snail mail people because of that. Well, that and the novelty, plus my sister in Washington getting handwritten notes from my kids here in New Hampshire is good. Yeah, they don't teach cursive anymore. When I bought the new phone, this thing, the guy admitted, he was 20, he admitted he didn't know cursive and couldn't read it. And I have that typewriter over there because my hands are so shaky that I can't write thank you notes and things like that to people. I have to use the typewriter in order to make it at all legible. And I've got this Type M keyboard from IBM that has the same slope and layout as a Selectric typewriter, and I can't type on a laptop anymore, so I'm just getting old. Um, yeah. Oh, yeah, you can order boxes. You can order priority mail boxes. They're free. They're free. You do get 10 in a package. That's true. If you're a new business, they come after you and they send you request. If you send in a card, they'll send you samples of all of the priority boxes. But I just picked up one today. Let's see. Terrible law. It is my box. Well, you may have to argue with the post office about who owns that box. Mobile Armored Strike Command says he's fascinated by particle and theoretical physics. There's a whole bunch of hoofah going on in the scientific community right now about black holes, dark energy, and so on. And they'll figure it out. Many government entities are required by law or statute to make tax assessment billings by first-class mail. That's different parts of the government scratching each other's back. Something the lesson videos, yes. The technician training videos from my website have all been transferred to the ARRL website, and they are, as far as I know, the official training videos of the ARRL for technician. The general and extra will follow soon. I was supposed to make an intro and outro video for those today, and I looked at it and discovered that I could see my eyes following along on the teleprompter, so I'm going to have to do two things. One, get further back so it doesn't show so bad, and wear glasses, which tends to hide it. Okay. Let's see, I can put out 2 boxes, one for UPS and one for the other people. Yes, you can do that. A lot of people will do that for their newspapers. We get the we get Montrose Daily Press electronically. My wife gets it. But a lot of people will put a separate box, it's yellow, under their regular mailbox so that the paper delivery people can put the paper in there, because they're not allowed to put it in your box. I guess common sense moves at the speed of government. Okay. Yet, how soon removed from YouTube? Oh, the texts. I was supposed to take them down today, but my assistant isn't here. And I won't see my assistant again till Wednesday. So that's when the tech videos will come down. Because he's got to go through my channel and mark every tech video, the most current set, the set before that, the set before that, and the set before that. Whatever it is, how many times it goes back, are going to be moved and marked as private. Now, the only way you can read that, it's not like unlisted. Unlisted, if you have the URL, you can look at it. But they'll be marked as private. So in essence, I'm putting them on Google's shelf for future possible need. Yes, I remember penmanship practice in grade school too. I was terrible at it. Yes, it was called longhand. It was not called cursive when I was a kid. It was longhand. The Model M is the best keyboard ever made. I agree with that. Okay, quick questions. What's your opinion on Ham Shack Hotline? Daniel, you got me caught flat-footed here. I don't really know what that is. Is that another channel? Ham radio enthusiasts discovered the ionosphere when you guys noticed they can make waves go around the world. Yeah. Oliver Heaviside and a guy by the name of Kennelly postulated the existence of the ionosphere. It was later discovered to be there. Hams, of course, did not wait for anything to be discovered. They just used it. And a lot of the early advances in radio were made by hams. Let's see, ham radio enthusiasts, as you guys noticed. You went from Deley to physics. Yes. Physicists make good engineers, Engineers don't always make good physicists, but I made a mistake in college and took physics in my freshman year. Physics for without calculus, which is stupid. I mean, physics, calculus, same thing. Calculus, the part of calculus that has been explored, is that necessary to make physics work? And so some mathematicians go off in strange directions and explore stuff that has no utility, but they rapidly run out of funding because nobody's interested. But if there's a mathematical problem that needs fixing, it'll be the mathematicians who prepare the math for the physicists to use and abuse. For example, the Dirac delta function, which is essential for understanding quantum mechanics and essential for understanding fundamental electronics, fields and waves. Many mathematicians frown at it and say there's no such thing. And I'm going, there's no such thing. Why is it so useful? I used it all through my master's work. But anyway, my undergraduate degree is in math, and my graduate degree is in engineering, electrical engineering. Mostly satellite communications, link budgets, how radios work, probability detection, all of that kind of stuff. Let's see, reference station for tech should be without digital. Well, the problem is that a lot of guys who get into ham radio, you give them an FM only radio, and that may not be what the club is using. There's some fine FM only radios out there. I just reviewed one from Baofeng, I think it was. Even the GD5R is a fine FM radio. Let's see, they're still my teaching cursive where we live. Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm glad somebody is. This is the problem with the national curriculum. Everybody learns the same thing. Well, that's nice, except that there's all these other things that nobody learns. And it's like it disappears, like people who can't read a standard clock. The kid I met down at who sold me this cell phone, who admits he can't read or write cursive. And when he gets letters from his grandmother, he has to take them to his mother to have them read to him. And in my humble opinion, and you all know how humble my opinions are, that is a travesty. We stand to lose our history by not teaching our children to read cursive, because it cuts them off from all of history. End of opinion. So anyway, will ARR members be able to download or FTP your videos or only view live? They will only view live. That's why I'm going to ask them to do some equivalent of the thumb drives. Ham Shack Hotline is a voice over IP for hams. Okay. Really depends on what type of physics you're talking about. Best math class I had was a math physics class taught out of a book by Arfken. What did you do at Northrop Grumman? I was a systems engineer there, working on the MX missile project, the stellar inertial. No, it wasn't stellar inertial. It was just inertial. The inertial guidance unit for the MX. At the time it was being made, it was the single most precise navigation instrument known to mankind. And it was very, very interesting. I was a systems engineer, meaning I was at the system level getting all these other engineers to talk to each other. I did the interface control document which was basically the user's manual for the inertial, what did they call it? Inertial Measurement Unit, IMU. And it fed the guidance computer. The guidance computer would query it, and I was responsible for that interface. And just no bragging or patting myself on the back, but the first time it was connected, it worked. So, probably know Joe Shuley's book on SATCOM. I don't know. Gagliardi wrote the books I liked the most, and he was at University of Southern California 45 to 50 years ago. Yeah. Okay. I'm always saddened by how many people can't read a musical score. Well, now there you go. I sort of learned that in school, but I took piano. My parents bought a piano on my dad's school teacher income, so therefore all of the children would get piano lessons. And I hated it with a passion and quit. Just went on strike when I was on that Schumer book two. And then at age 39, I picked up the organ, and I'm now one of the organists at church. BBC article about this generation being the first in history to have an average IQ lower than the previous. I wonder how they measure that, because for years the SAT was the scholastic aptitude test. It literally was an IQ test. And I got very high scores on that, and that's how I got into UCLA, by doing very well on the SAT. The ACT was the American Comprehensive something or other. Anyway, it was an achievement test. It tested what you knew, rather than your aptitude or your intelligence, your ability to learn. Well, the SAT has changed to become another achievement test. They don't measure IQ anymore. And I think that's a shame, because we need the people in our nation with the highest IQ to do highly technical work where they need to think of things nobody's ever thought of before. So, anyway. Musical score, yes. I don't seem to receive anything under 17 meters on my end fed, so I really want to go eat my general at least. Not exactly sure how to interpret that. If you by under 17 meters, if you mean 15, 12, and 10, yeah, there's not much going on those bands right now. Most of your activity is on 40 and 20. There's some on 80, but I don't really like 80 meters. I've heard that a lot of teachers don't want to grade cursive. No, that's not really why. It was decided that it's like keyboarding nowadays. You keyboard on a computer, and they start it in the 4th grade. I took my typing classes in the 11th grade. Okay, so just everything was different. By the way, I still say that the class I took in high school that has done me the most good over my life was the typing class. Because in my engineering work, I could hit print first. And he who hits print first wins. So if I had my opinion out there on people's desks before anybody else did, it was one of the little secrets of the trade. People take the first thing they come across and they stick with it. That's why beta failed. Wondering how I should ground my radio? Go to Ask Dave number 8. That's going way back in time. But just put Ask Dave 8 or something in the search bar on my channel and you'll find it. Also, there is a new update to the grounding and bonding book from the ARRL. Ward Silver, I guess, wrote that? Or was it somebody else? Anyway, I have it on my iPad, just still on. There's a new one now, and it'll be out later this month. Okay, so you might wait to get edition 2 on that. Why hasn't the U.S. adopted the metric system? They tried at one point, but there was so much pushback that the government gave up. I mean, we really are on the metric system in many ways. If you buy a set of tools to work on your car, you're going to get both metric and the old-fashioned imperial. At least it's not Whitworth. No, there's a set that is truly weird. And then in the metric, there's also the SI units that are used. So a 10 millimeter head on a screw is a certain shank width with a certain thread pitch. You always know what you're getting. It's always the same. This is from Harry Rundle, says, thank you for the wonderful content of this evening's Q&A. I learn something new every time I tune. Good job. Thank you very much, Harry. Harry, I appreciate that. Writing in cursive, I agree with you, Dino. In my humble opinion, he said writing in cursive is the best way to copy CW. Cursive lowercase. Cursive lowercase. And you can, at one point, I was doing it that way, and that was when I had my highest speed. Typing class was the top. See, I took typing because that's where the girls were. Yeah, oh, and that's what Rod Boy says. Took typing in high school to meet girls, and it worked. A decent basic education in all subjects is important. After that, tech and vocational. Fine. Any types of intelligence. Yes, yes, of course, absolutely. I apologize. I think we are or have been disconnected a little bit there. Oh, yeah, and real history and stuff. What's your suggestion for the best Morse code teacher program? Well, the one I liked the most, and I'm going to forget the name again, so somebody's going to have to remind me. It's an old program made by a Brit. G4FON, something like that. It will teach you the letters 2 at a time or more. You have infinite control over how many letters it gives you, what order you want them. It will make each letter short and spaces between them long. It's called the Farnsworth method. And you can actually have it give QSO-like things to copy. And it will actually, if you ask it to, give you both static and interference that you have to receive the code through. It's the most realistic code program that I've ever learned. Now, after that, the best way to get your code speed up is to get on the air. So you go find a friend who's also learning code, and you get on every night at 8 o'clock and send back and forth to each other. You can actually do this over 2 meters, but or send CW to each other at whatever speed works for the two of you. And the thing about getting on the air is you can't go back and check your work, so you better get it done right the first time. So it's very good. Wentworth, oh yes. Oh, Wentworth was weird. Any plans to write a book on amateur radio tips and tricks? No, I will leave that to the people at the league who are very good at that sort of thing. Americans need to know both metric and imperial to truly survive. All engineering work is done in metric, using SI units, International System units. Okay? It may surprise you to know that 1 second, standard second, is the international unit of time. So there we've got the same. There's 2 versions of metric units. There's MKS and CGS. And they both have their place, but you can get things confused if you do that. A Mars probe failed. A NASA Mars probe failed. because one company that interfaced with another, one did it in metric, the other did it in the imperial units that we normally use. How NASA could have let that happen, I have no idea. Who let them do it in imperial units ought to have been fired. It should always be metric, okay, because it works. Yes, we do. Don Z, as you point out. Farnsworth. Okay, Farnsworth. We got a couple minutes here. The Farnsworth method for learning the Morse code is to send each letter at 18 words per minute. Did-a-da-dit. And then put 5 word per minute type spacing between the letters. So my call would be da-da-da, dit, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-dit. So you see each character is sent quickly. So it sounds to the brain like it's just one sound. And whenever you hear that sound, you forever associate it with that letter or number or punctuation mark. Okay? And it does work, but that's not the only thing. The old ARRL Morse course, which dates back to World War II. Oh, I got to tell you, when the U.S. went to war in World War II, it was the collection of radio amateurs that we had that bailed us out, because everybody needed radio operators, and the military used Morse code back then. And where do you get somebody who's young, of military age, smart, well-educated? The hams. The ham stepped right into those jobs. There are even stories of, the government collecting equipment, and some people would go to their station, find their own equipment sitting there, which of course they instantly knew how to operate and could do very well with it. So, yeah. Tell me, what size drive does your socket sets take? 1/4 inch. Even the metric stuff's 1/4 inch. Bounce back and forth, yeah. 4 newtons to a pound. Pound is force. So I think newtons is force. That's one thing people don't understand. Pound is a unit of force. Metric, the kilogram, is a unit of mass. Mass and force are two different things. You've all heard the equation force equals mass times acceleration. Well, pound force is different from a slug, which is the ANSI, A-N-S-I, American National System. Or is it the automotive standard? I'm not sure. They measure mass in slugs. How sick sounding is that? But mass is mass, measured in kilograms or grams, depending on which system you're using. And force is a newton in the SI units. Okay, binary is beautiful. 3 top problems in software engineering are cache coherency and off by 1 errors. You said 3. You gave me 2. So it'd be easy to learn up to speed. Why learn it slow? Well, that's the whole point of Farnsworth, is that you actually learn it at an accelerated rate, but as you get better, you can put less and less and less space between them. Now, the problem is you learned it at 18 words a minute, so you got to make the leap to go any faster. You're going to have to get faster on the individual things. Now, there is no Morse code requirement. It is something that any ham can do. A lot of technicians forget that they can do Morse code on HF. Okay? It's one thing you can do. Okay, let's see. There's only 10 kinds of people in the world. There are those who say there are 10 kinds of people and those who don't. So that's just 2 kinds. Learned Morse code in 67. Now 69 can still copy at 69. Not fast, but can copy. Yes, I can copy. My speed's about 10 words a minute now. The only newtons that matter are fig newtons, yes. First time I heard about pound being force. Yeah, it is. It is. So you measure your little Estes rockets. They will give you pound force. They're also Newton seconds. The Newton second is force per second. Or no, Newton seconds. Force is times seconds. So it'll give you that force for that number of seconds. The ARRL's listed reason for ham radio was indeed to provide a trained pool of radio operators for the military into the 60s or 70s. How do you get off the Farnsworth? I'm having a hard time doing. I find listening to code that is truly 5 words per minute to be painful to listen to, actually. American National Standards Institute. Okay, thank you. Which CW key do you recommend for a beginner? Well, there's one in the reference station. It's this one. This is made by MFJ. It's the MFJ 566M. Or you can get it directly from the actual manufacturer, which is cwmorse.us. But this key can be had for a little over $20. It's a good key. It's solid. It will last a long time. It's not a J38, but you're not going to find a J38. They're hard to come by anymore. If you can find them, great. I picked one up for $5 at a Hamfest a few years ago. Okay, we're about, still get up to about 18 words a minute, yes. And then after that, you go to this. This is a paddle. This is what is used with your radio. This gives you dits, this gives you DAWs, or the other way around. You plug this in and your radio has a keyer in it, which will interpret what you're doing and send out the Morse code. Okay, yeah. IBM. Oh, LBM, pound mass, yes. Got around in great stream. Thank you. So we are past time here, so I'm going to say thanks a lot for your support. I really appreciate it. I'm very excited about the videos moving to the ARRL website because they will get more exposure that way, and I'm always looking forward to your feedback on how I can improve them. The technician videos will be redone in 2022, next year. Okay, and the new stuff goes into effect in July. And so one of the nice things about working with the ARRL is that I will be working with the person who is updating this book so that we can keep the videos in sync. It used to be I had to get the book first and then go through it and see what had to be changed. So, very good. Remember, if you want to enter the drawing, send a snail mail to Dave Casler, KE0OG, P.O. Box 98, Ridgeway, Colorado 81432. Put on the card giveaway number 2, and please put your shipping address, name, and phone number in case I have to get in touch with you. I don't need your email address. And all the entries will be discarded at the end of the drawing. I don't keep records. You don't go on a mailing list or anything like that. You actually do observe privacy. Max Headroom has sent $10. Are $10. Always learn here, Mr. Casler. Thanks, says Max. Thank you very much. Okay, until we next meet, 73.